So thank you everyone for staying with us as we move one step closer to closing out an inspiring first day of Brave New Ocean conference programming. It's been a full and energizing program from ecosystem services to coastal hazards, conservation to innovation. And if there's one thing I heard clearly, it's that the ocean enterprise is not just an emerging market segment, it's accelerating. But it's also evolving. And the choices we make in these early stages about how we collaborate, where we invest, and who we include will shape the trajectory of the space for decades to come. So before we hand the mic over to the next generation of bold thinkers in the Ocean Exchange pitch competition, we're taking a moment to pause, reflect, and look forward. And this final session is not just about summarizing what we've heard, but surfacing from the panel and the audience what we might have missed. What tensions are emerging? Where do we still need alignment? And what ideas deserve more space? I'm joined by two of my friends and exceptional voices on this closing panel, people who bring not just deep expertise, but clarity and candor about where the ocean enterprise needs to go next. First, we have Justin Manley, founder of Just Innovation. Justin is a veteran of ocean technology with a career spanning the private sector, government, and academia. He's an advocate for thoughtful innovation and sustainable business models, and one who's long championed the idea that the ocean enterprise must be bold, but also balanced. And we're also joined by Donna Kocak, Principal Fellow at L3 Harris Technologies, and one of the leading figures at the intersection of ocean engineering and defense. Donna brings a systems-level view of innovation, from sensing and autonomy to mission operations, and a strong voice on how to build enduring partnerships between government, industry, and research communities. We're keeping this conversation informal and focused, but we also want to hear from you. We have plenty of time for audience Q&A, so please think of any questions, insights, or even provocations you want to bring into the room. I'll start with a few questions for the panelists, and then we'll turn to the audience to jump in. Engagement like this is the most important part of the day, not just in the presentations you've heard, but in the dialogues that happen across the room. So with that, let's dive in. We've heard a lot today from our great speakers about the current and future state of the ocean enterprise. What's one insight or idea that really stuck with you, and why?
Feel free, Donna.
Okay. Well, I'm a little biased towards technology, and so the one I would want to emphasize to folks is the air and sea connection, the air and ocean connection, and we heard a good deal about that at lunch, which was very important. Now we're going back to the 60s where we wanted to live in the sea to learn more about the oceans with Sea Lab. Now we've got Proteus, which is going back, and I think that's very important to learn more about our oceans and the history, archaeology, and events that happen in the oceans, minerals and things, and also how that can give us a big global picture from sensing from space. There's the bathymetry that was mentioned by the questions, seeing through the water down. In the MTS Journal this month, we have a state of technology that I helped to organize, and on the cover is a very beautiful picture of the Earth. Where we've got an advanced baseline imager now that's critical for tracking fires on land, as well as ocean weather events. It's a NOAA system. So the technology there is looking at multiple frequencies, wavelengths, infrared, near infrared, and visible. So just having that full circle connection and having the global perspective is what I would say.
And completely avoiding the topic of technology, despite being a technology fan myself, my other takeaway is just a reminder of how deeply complex what we're trying to accomplish is. The complexity of regional issues, policy versus profit versus personality, right? every single conversation today had easily half a dozen different elements, each one of which could have been a topic on its own, right? And so here we are, relatively short into a day, and if you actually peel back those layers, we've covered an immense amount. And I think it's one of the things that makes ocean enterprise, all aspects of sort of living and working on a planet like this, complicated. Doesn't mean we should run away, but it's important to sort of remember there aren't going to be many easy answers here.
Good point.
Yeah, to answer my own question, when I think of traditional catalysts for investment, I tend to think of incubators, accelerators, research parks, opportunity zones. And I want to thank Joel for reminding me this morning of the role sanctuaries play. When I first met Joel, he talked about underwater national parks, and that's a visual that resonates with me. And to hear more so today, the role that sanctuaries play as economic engines, as sources of natural infrastructure, but also as incubators and catalysts for businesses in local communities. It's not a conversation we tend to hear often when we think about ocean business and ocean enterprise, so Joel, thank you. On that thread, from the perspective you both bring to the table, what was missing in today's conversation? You know, what do we need to keep on our radar that wasn't surfaced today?
Want to take this one first?
I'm happy to drift into provocations. Scope, scale, and a tiny bit of ambition. So we have a habit of making ourselves feel special by talking about the blue economy and thinking that we're specialists in the blue economy. My argument is there is no blue economy. We live on a blue planet, and it has an economy. And so when I talk about scope and scale, you know, Walmart wasn't here, right? Some of the largest economic engines and forcing functions on that planet aren't here with us, you know, insurance, law, right? Like there's huge things and huge levers that shape our economy that we need to continue to pull in. And so that's the scope and the scale element that I think that's missing. And then when I say a tiny bit of ambition, that's, and I'm guilty of this myself, it's that we sometimes forget about reaching outside our community and the places where we feel most comfortable and most confident to have those hard conversations. And I will say it's one of the things I appreciate about EarthX, you know, spending the day here yesterday outside my usual fish tank, as it were, was really time well spent. So it's just a reminder we need to break down those barriers and be ambitious.
Yeah, and yeah, it was interesting. Even the scale that we heard in the last panel session was a little bit different twist on scale. But going back to the physics and the modeling and the technology, we didn't hear anything about quantum. You know, quantum is, people want to say that's far off. It's too far off. It's not really that far off. We heard a little bit about Silent Swarm, an event that takes place in DoD, and we're actually going to be participating in that with a quantum sensor. And that's a Rydberg for communication, but other sensors like NV diamond sensors, that has the potential to impact ocean sensors a great deal by adding more resolution and sensitivity. And in one atom, one sensor, one NV diamond sensor, you can sense a number of different parameters like temperature, strain, magnetometry. So it's just the scale of sensors where we're going in the future, and it will change our models and physics a little bit.
When we talk about ocean technology, ocean science, ocean research, even broadly the ocean enterprise, I think we traditionally default back to established companies, government actors, research institutions, and academia. Justin, you brought up a couple non-traditional players as missing in today's conversation. And so my question for both of you circles back to what role do non-traditional partners, whether they're mega cap corporations outside of our space, but even tech startups, indigenous communities, impact investors, what role do non-traditional partners play in shaping the future of the ocean enterprise and specifically ocean technology?
I'll start here, and I'm not going to do the technology one this time.
Oh, all right.
But I was at Oceans in Halifax last year, 2024, and there was a speaker, representing indigenous communities. And it really brought back down to earth, it really grounds you, and that we often overlook them. And there's a lot of knowledge there in the traditional that gets carried on for generations. I've been doing more reading in that area, and it's just amazing what we can learn from them. They've lived and survived and sustained in the ocean, keeping our ocean healthy for their own benefit, and they have more knowledge that we need to look to, even as a technologist. I think we need to keep that in mind. It gets passed on culturally. So that's one example.
Yeah, I think it depends on where the organization lands on the scale bar. Indigenous communities, startups, perhaps are underappreciated, less influential. We'll call that on the small side of the scale bar, judgment not intended, right? That crowd is actually doing a very good job of being thoughtful about this ecosystem. We have startups standing up in a few minutes, right? My message to those communities is keep it up, please, right? And remind us when those of us who are perhaps established, been around a while, have some influence, remind us when we're not helping, and keep us allied. And then on the other side of the scale bar, if you think about monstrous finance, monstrous retail businesses, the call to them is to watch what those little folks are doing and pay attention. And almost the same call, which is, come ask how you can contribute, right? And so it's all about raising your hand and speaking up. Both sides of it need to come at it from a different equation, but they just need to not be silent and not hide.
Yeah, just to emphasize the startups, going to the Ocean Exchange, and I think we're going to see it this afternoon. It really is impressive that they really want to. All the projects are focused on helping and benefiting. What we've harmed. So it's really going to be good to see and exciting to see the next session.
Yeah, thank you both. Let's take a moment. Let's turn to the audience. What questions do we have from the room? Millie.
You can always see where the microphone is. You got the vest on. He stands out.
So do something provoking, right? What we didn't talk about, and we just didn't have time, but I think there are opportunities to talk about this, is how humans are going to use the ocean further. And it's inevitable. Well, okay, there's some inevitability to it. And the M word came up a couple of times, mining. And there's some people here that will say, over my dead body, are we ever going to mine anything from the ocean? And there are people like Ray Dalio, who I think has said, it's inevitable, and so let's not put our blinders on, and let's do it in a responsible way. And of course, that relates to data. And so, that's kind of an interesting topic that we could explore. I also really support what you said about these other parties. We had 2 awesome cases about coastal resiliency, and it would be nice to have some insurance, reinsurance, kind of risk management people here, because they are one of the biggest consumers of what we heard, and I think there's some opportunities to further explore that. But the M word, mining, and using the ocean for resources, we haven't really talked about, and it's something we can do at a future time, right?
For sure.
I will certainly take debate with the disclaimer that I have an equity stake in an innovative seafloor mineral harvesting, that's the words we use, company. We're already doing it. We actually retrieve sand from the seafloor and we move it around, right? So the reality is, as a society, we're already in the business of picking up stuff from the seafloor. Is pumping oil mining? No, it's harvesting a resource, right? So we already do this in many, many ways, right? So I think it's important to remember fishing, like one of the oldest things we do is catch fish out of the ocean. So as a species, we have been extracting value from the ocean for pretty much as long as we've been around. We've learned how to deal with it in different ways. Indigenous practices manage fisheries differently than, commercial trawling fleets. And so I think it's just important to embrace that, yes, this is what we do as a species. We use tools, we innovate, and we should be thoughtful about it, and it's fair to have a debate. And if the position, any topic, this one in particular, starting at a definite yes or a definite no is not going to get you to a, this is how it works, right? I will add that just the vibe at the moment in the space is acceleration, and that it could be that that acceleration is going to lead to maybe some early mistakes and failures, but hopefully the acceleration will pick up and go in the right direction. So it's coming, and we should do it.
And I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate. I don't have a definite answer. I'm sort of on the fence, but even what you said, yes, we harvest, move sand around. Is that actually good? Have we really done a good job of it? Are the turtles impacted during season, et cetera, et cetera? And it's a natural process for the sand to move around on the beach. Why do we want to restore it and put it back? But I know why. And have we been responsible about fishing? I don't think so. Otherwise, we wouldn't be over harvesting and, all the fish. But to that point too, I better not change the topic yet. But there's something else that didn't come up that might be better to talk about too. But yeah, I don't know if we learn lessons learned, from what we've done on land and from our quote unquote mining in other areas. If we consider all that and take that into effect, maybe we can do it sustainably and smartly. And then if things are there available without having to dig or drill, baby drill, whatever we want to look at it, if it's there and it's easy to pick up, maybe it's not such a harmful thing, to do. But yeah, a lot of that's it.
Well, and to blend both of your answers together, I think it points to an important strength of the ocean enterprise, which is to use marine technologies to generate data to inform decision-making on very complex topics. So many of us in the room would not want to be the ultimate arbiter on, is an extractive resource capture the right thing to do? But we can all work at the intersection of how we provide that information, going back to what Tom said earlier, to those who make those decisions, to inform that decision making.
Good point. And plastics was the other topic that nobody talked about.
So we're going to take a break now, head towards a break, and then we're going to have our 7 finalists for the startup thing. I just want to add to what you guys have been saying, real short thing. What have we learned? I think the one thing that's really so clear is what we need is leadership. And I don't mean from the people at the top of the organizations. I mean from each and every one of us in this room. We have to be leaders. You can lead from the middle. You can lead from the sidelines. There's so many ways to make a difference, but it's going to take the leadership. So one of the ways we can lead is to encourage and bring forth these people with new solutions, new ideas, startups, young people. Find out that's where the innovation of the future is going to be. It used to be that conservation meant just use a little less. Now conservation is let's rethink the whole thing. Let's get some great ideas and change the world. So that's what we're going to do.